This radio program is PG-13. Parents strongly caution some material may be inappropriate for children under the age of 13.
The following program is sponsored by Michael W. Smith. The views expressed on the following program are those of the host and not necessarily those of staff, management, or ownership.
Phoenix, Maricopa County, Brother Mike, back on the radio. Welcome to HardcoreChristianity.com. Thanks for tuning into the program. Today's Bible study, the collapse of Rome. Sound familiar? Boy, it sure does. Hey, will you call somebody and tell them the radio program's on? Wait till you hear this. We're next. I'll make a couple of announcements when you make that call. This is Brother Mike. I'm the professional counselor at the Arizona Deliverance Center. Been a counselor for over 40 years, on the radio for over 20 years. Thanks to your support, and thank you for all your donations. If you go to the website, HardcoreChristianity.com, you will see all of our ministry services. We have children's deliverance services. We have women's seminars. We've got training classes. We have 2 live services every week, Thursday and Friday nights at 7 o'clock. We have 2 Zoom services every week, live, Tuesday night and Wednesday night. If you go to the website, hardcorechristianity.com, you can get all the details about those services and the times. All of our services are broadcast on our YouTube teaching channel and all of our other platforms. We're on several of them. And if you hit the PayPal button, you can send us another donation to help us stay on the air for another 20 years, assuming I make it. The probability of that is relatively low. I'm an older person anyhow, so 20 years is not looking good for me right now. But we're going to do our best. Sunday morning's my podcast at 9 o'clock. Just go to twitch.tv and put in HCCADC, and you are there. I'll see you every Sunday morning at 9. Thank you for tuning in. Rome. It happens to them all, doesn't it? Sure it does. The Persians went under. The Greeks went under. Rome went under. Guess who's going under next? Take a wild guess. Things that make you go, Yeah, you're living here. I'm living right in the middle of it. People who don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. Remember that famous phrase? Yeah, that phrase is true. The Roman Empire, as you can imagine, was absolutely ridiculous. It was so huge. It took up such a huge amount of Europe and Asia. It was unbelievable. It was so big it had to split in half. It kept expanding and expanding and expanding over the years. And several distinct things happened to Rome that is happening in the United States, and Rome collapsed. Their civilization fell apart. What were those things that killed Rome? The biggest and most powerful civilization up to that time that had ever existed on the face of the earth. The number one problem with Rome, what was it? Constant wars. Rome was at war constantly. They were always involved in another war. And as a result of that, had dramatic expenditures and huge taxes on their citizens in order to fund all these incredible wars. They were always fighting, and the more they expanded, the more fighting occurred. It was absolutely amazing. They had to tax their citizens more and more money to fund the everlasting expansion of the Roman Empire and the constant wars that resulted over this expansion. Nobody in Rome, particularly the emperors and the Senate, had the intelligence, the knowledge, or the experience to stop expanding and stop fighting endless wars. And it was one of the reasons the Roman Empire collapsed. Number 2, as a result of this massive expansion, and as a result of all these wars, Rome was forced to stop expanding And as a result of that, they were not collecting slaves from other territories and other nations that they conquered. The entire Roman Empire was built by slaves. They had hardcore manual laborers, and the entire economy depended on slaves. They did all the construction work. They worked as craftsmen. They did all the agricultural work. They supported the military. They fought in the military, supporting the Roman Empire. Slaves were a huge part of the Roman Empire. When they ran out of slaves, they had a massive labor shortage in Rome, which helped to destroy the empire. You know, at its height, the Roman Empire was absolutely unbelievable. It went all the way from the Atlantic Ocean to the Euphrates River in the Middle East. It was unreal. I mean, it was huge. And that was part of its downfall. The more territory you acquire, the more territory you have to govern. The more territory you govern, the more expenditures you have to have in order to govern that territory. It became a logistical nightmare. It became an administrative horror show for the emperors and the Senate of Rome. They couldn't do it anymore. They constantly had to funnel their resources and their money into the military in order to keep the empire held up, strong and steady, and they couldn't do it anymore. The fourth thing that killed Rome was the emperors and the senators. They were rotten to the core. They were all liars. All they did was milk taxes out of the citizens and spend it on themselves. The whole system of the Senate and all the emperors had become corrupt. And the system became a situation where it was, instead of exploding to other countries, it was imploding. In a span of only 75 years in the Roman Empire, believe it or not, there were 20 emperors, and almost all of them were murdered by the next emperor, almost like batting practice. The military of Rome took over. They used to promote people to be emperors. They would sell it off to the highest bidder. The Senate was rotten to the core, and they were all kind of like our president. All of them had their own separate, self-absorbed, selfish crime family. They were all stealing tax dollars. Instead of helping the poor, they kept stealing from the poor. And the whole system became corrupt, and it became rotten. The citizens of Rome, watching the emperors get murdered off one after the other, watching the senators steal money and load their coffers with cash, silver coins back then, the people began to lose faith in the system. Civic pride collapsed. The Roman citizens lost trust in their leadership. They began to see the whole system as rotten to the core. The fifth thing that destroyed the Roman Empire, guess what it was? Mass migration, immigration. As the Roman Empire expanded, the Huns invaded Europe and caused enormous migration problems. And the Visigoths migrated to escape the Huns and genocide into the Roman territories. The Romans accepted the Visigoths into their territories, but did not support them and brutalized them and tried to make many of them slaves. The Romans brutalized the Goths and the Visigoths, and suddenly over a period of years, Rome found themselves internally with people who were enemies of Rome. They had let in Trojan horses, and because of their abuse of the people that were running from the Huns and immigration, the country was destroyed. Immigration was part of the downfall of Rome. And it was part of the reason it became crushed. In addition, these immigrants joined the military, and the military became weak because these people that were joining the Roman army, the legions, they were not supporters of Rome. And so Rome had basically been infected with a virus. People who were not born in the Roman territory and who did not have any civic or national pride. And these people turned on the Roman Empire. And as you remember, the Visigoths and the Goths later on revolted, and the Germanic Goths and other barbarians wiped out Rome and took the whole system down. Does any of that sound familiar to you? Well, I guarantee it does. Satan is using the exact same tactics in the United States to bring down America, the greatest country that ever lived. Rome was the greatest country that ever lived at that time. America is the greatest country that ever lived at this time. And the devil is using the exact same tactics to destroy the United States. Illegal immigration, people coming across the border with diseases, illnesses, felonies, criminal records. Unvetted people are being spread all over the United States who are not born here and don't have any civic pride or national pride in the United States. The military is corrupt. The senators and congressmen are corrupt. The president is corrupt. In this country, we're following the exact same pattern that caused the Roman Empire to collapse. Everything they did, we are now doing. Satan is using the exact same political and social system to destroy us. He used to destroy the Roman Empire. Rome is gone, and we're next.
The views expressed on this program are those of the host and not necessarily those of staff, management, or ownership. This program was sponsored by Michael W. Smith.